We're ready.
Hello, my name is John Stout. I'm an officer and shareholder at Fredrikson and Byron, and I'm pleased to be speaking with you on the subject of governance and artificial intelligence, which really has to do with the boards encountering artificial intelligence and some introductory comments, as well as some comments about oversight responsibilities in this particularly challenging area. Artificial intelligence is very much a part of many businesses, and its use is growing, whether in operations or otherwise. It's critical that boards understand the basics of AI and the issues that may arise as the boards discharge their oversight responsibilities. So I thought first I would just put on the slide a number of words, phrases, etc., that are associated with artificial intelligence. Things like augmented learning, machine learning, big data, deep learning, supervised learning, unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning, neural networks, which really refers to the connection of computers and their software programs and their ability to communicate back and forth through those networks. Internet of Things, you would be familiar with, because there we're talking about connectivity with devices. So it could be your television set, the heat in your home, your lights, etc. Robotics and automation, virtual reality, blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and then the black box problem you'll also see referred to. So artificial intelligence poses many interesting challenges for boards. It's utilized by many businesses and impacts many aspects of business and can be very disruptive, transformative. I've put a number of areas of business on the screen so that you can see the various aspects of any company that you serve as a director of identified there. And while it's not an all-inclusive list, you'll see that it covers many important areas, from intellectual property to various financings to life sciences and healthcare, if that's a business you're associated with, real estate, energy, banking and financial services. Also covers operations like human resources and the internal financial structure of the company. And as I said, it's often a very transformative, disruptive technology, whether it's used by a company you're a director of, or whether it's used by a competitor, or whether it's beginning to shape the industry that your company is in. So boards need to understand the applications to their company's business, the current use by the company or considered use, whether it's part of the company's current strategy, the use of artificial intelligence systems by competitors. And boards need to think through the ethical challenges of artificial intelligence systems, as well as the risks and benefits. A good example of that is the system used by Volkswagen, which created huge ethical, legal, and financial issues for the company when it decided to employ software which could recognize the testing environment and create emissions which were compliant with the laws and regulations of the jurisdiction where it was being tested, where the engine was being tested. And also, it could recognize when the engine was now operating under road conditions, in which case higher performance was possible, but also the emission standards of the various jurisdictions were violated, creating billions of dollars of liability for the company. So what are the board responsibilities in this regard? Well, one is to assure the company's integrity and align the company's culture with its core values, which means integrity and legally mandated ethical culture, and a culture which embraces legal compliance. The company has to elect directors which are aligned with the company's core values and have the required business oversight skills. It's important to include technology, and now particularly artificial intelligence software systems, in the literacy and desired skill set of a director. One of the board's responsibilities is to assure that the company has systems and processes in place which assess and enforce its core values, and in particular, which assure the existence of an ethical culture and a culture which embraces legal compliance. It's not enough for the board to say, we didn't know if an issue comes up. The board has a duty to know, and it has to assure that those systems and processes which provide the information it needs are in place and are functioning. The board also has a responsibility to elect a CEO whose values are aligned with the company's core values and who takes the lead in assuring that there is, in fact, an ethical culture and a culture which embraces legal compliance, as well as a CEO who has the skills needed for developing and managing an effective strategy and high-performing business operations. The board also has a responsibility to approve the company strategy, which means if artificial intelligence is part of that strategy, the benefits and risks, and also to consider the oversight challenges with respect to such a system. It's also important for the board to consider the system in the long-term value creation and societal impact of the company's operations. There was an interesting letter published by Lawrence Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, to the CEOs of the companies in which BlackRock was invested, that underscored the critical nature of long-term value creation and societal impact, and the nature of some of the AI systems that are either developed and in use or in the process of being developed and considered would have significant implications for the societal impact part of Mr. Fink's letter. The company has a responsibility to assure that there is a board committee with responsibility for technology and data oversight, and confirm that management has a qualified senior technology executive in charge of the use and oversight of technology by the company, as well as responsible for data security and privacy, and that individual has reporting responsibilities to the board. It's also critical that there be a strong internal audit group with a broad scope, which includes ethical culture, technology, acquisition and use, data privacy and security, legal compliance, and ethical culture. And of course, as mentioned earlier, the related systems and processes. So how does a board go about this? What actions does it need to take, and what are its resources? I already mentioned electing directors whose core values align with the company's, and appointing a CEO. And those are two actions that are critical. Requiring periodic management reports to the board on the subject of ethics and compliance, technology risks and benefits, and particularly the use of artificial intelligence systems is also critical. Another key tool that the board has in conducting oversight in these areas is to schedule periodic one-on-one meetings with the senior people in charge of various critical functions. And I've given you a list of those individuals and key outside service providers that could guide your oversight in some of those areas. A couple of others that are very important. In conducting its oversight responsibilities, it's critical that the board assure a culture of absolute candor among directors, and also that the board insist on absolute candor among the board and management on core values, ethics, compliance, strategy, risks, some of the technology issues we've been talking about, including the deployment of AI systems. And periodically, for the board to go outside and contract with an independent resource to oversee and check and assess that the core values, ethics, compliance, etc., are as represented. Okay? Another important board resource is an excellent funded internal audit department with direct reporting to the board or board committee. And as I said earlier, with a scope that includes many of the board responsibilities relating to values, ethics, compliance, strategy, risks, etc. And then it's critical, and the board needs to deal directly with this, that there is communication between the external and internal auditors on the same issues we've been discussing, the culture, value, ethics, compliance, etc., and that there is a report to the board that is developed as part of that communication. Ready? And lastly, it's important to engage outside consultants to the board to assist the board in its oversight responsibilities, particularly where the board may not have the necessary knowledge and skill sets to assure that that oversight is properly conducted. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you on the subject of governance and artificial intelligence, and would be pleased to respond to questions or comments. My contact information is on the screen in front of you. Thanks for your attention.